Welcome to this new podcast series brought to you by the Electrical Safety Network. I'm Dave Austin, and I'll be hosting the programmes along with Gary Gundry, technical author and trainer who brings insight from the contracting world and specialist knowledge from BS 7671, the regs, and on-site guidance. Today we look at design software, and our special guest is Spencer Henry from Modecsoft, a software house specialising in developing high-quality and easy-to-use software tools. You may know them best for their installation design tool, ElectricalOM, which makes complex circuit design possible at the click of a mouse and is fully compliant with BS 7671. Spencer has worked in many areas of the electrotechnical sector. He's a corporate member of the Institute for Clerks of Works and Construction Inspectorate. As the electrical expert for the Institute's technical hub, he provides advice, technical support and information to the members. He also sits on several technical committees. Here's a taster of what you'll hear.
The environment makes it very, very simple for you to just easily drag and drop things into the location and how and when you need them without having to overly go into learning concepts behind CAD and how that all works as well.
Because there's no way you could do your 3-year training and then just step into a design CAD office. It just wouldn't work.
We want to offer the software out to any colleges, any universities that provide that sort of training, and we will just give you licenses where we're not asking for anything for them.
Could I use it on my design course?
Spencer, welcome to the Electrical Safety Network.
Thank you.
Describe for us ElectricalOM in a few words for those that are not aware of it.
Yeah, so ElectricalOM is a piece of software which we have out in the market, which is primarily a calculation engine and a tool for designing electrical installations. But we take that tool and we place it in a CAD environment. Within that CAD environment, we can think in things like drawings and other information from architects and other types of software as well. Which also allows us to bring in golden threads of information, so information about manufacturers' devices and cable types and these sorts of things, and also brings us through to certification. So we can perform whole building lifecycle management all within sort of one location. So where you previously might have been using 3 or 4 different pieces of software, everything's all amalgamated into a single compliance location as such.
And Gary, how useful is such software, do you think, for the jobbing Sparky? Or it's more for the bigger designer, isn't it?
I mean, ideally it would be for the larger design and consultancy, but the way things are going with individuals, they want to perfect the system. I mean, you can learn all of this from the wiring regulations. There's courses in there, but it's probably for single circuits. You know, when you start getting to bigger jobs, you know, multi-boards, multi-level flooring, you know, you can bring it all together. So yes, I see that this is the beginning of something much bigger and a better understanding. I mean, I spoke to Spencer we know each other for some time now, but I've sensed that when you were showing me some stuff, when I'm teaching it, I can visualize it. Try and get across a visualization concept of selectivity on circuit breakers and other devices. Your software does it in a really good way, very simple, very clean and very visual.
I was impressed with the business. I mean, AFDDs are included, SPDs. You can accommodate pretty much any of the variables in a circuit. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty complex stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So we work with a lot of manufacturers and a lot of people who work in very various complex environments in terms of design. We don't hold the software only to complex design as well. You can bring it down to very, very simple installations all the way down to small domestic. And we actually provide specific solutions for those doing small designs as well. So we've made the tools so they're easily accessible and easily learnable. If you haven't had much experience with CAD or these sorts of programs, the environment makes it very, very simple for you to just easily drag and drop things into the location and how and when you need them without having to overly go into learning concepts behind CAD and how that all works as well.
And I guess as trainees, new people come into the industry, this is going to become standard fare, isn't it? You're very passionate about getting it into education, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. When you're learning, you need to understand the bare core principles. So you're going to learn all the hand calculations, how to make all those design decisions and look at the data while being able to understand how it's being calculated and why it's being calculated that way. But when you come into the working arena where you go to an employer and you start an employment with them, you're going to have to learn some form of software along the way. So a lot of the time, this tends to be done on the job, but The way we see this is we want to offer the software out to any colleges, any universities that provide that sort of training, and then they can incorporate that sort of training within their syllabuses and how they're doing things. So when they're going to employees, they've already had exposure to using these CAD environments, they've already had exposure to using software, doing design and schematics, and have access to real life scenarios of how a design is put together, ready for tender or during construction, and things that then all that vital information that goes into the safety files and the M&E files at the end of a job, all produced there nicely in a package so they can understand that real world environment that it goes to.
It's going to be impossible not to, isn't it, Gary?
I was just thinking the very same thing, Dave. Basically, when you learn it in your training side of things, it's a simple calculation, simple circuit, and we've talked about this in other podcasts. It's very simple to do it in building blocks, but if you start at the beginning and it's drip fed into it, it wouldn't be a massive leap for the electrician to become a designer, because there's no way you could do your 3-year training and then just step into a design CAD office. It just wouldn't work. So it would be the beginning of something bigger here. So yes, it would be something that I would see coming forward.
I'm getting the young blood coming through for whom it'll almost be second nature. My concern is that little lump in the middle, and we encounter them because we facilitate exams online, and we see how difficult they find the most basic computer operation. I mean, not even know what a browser is. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy, how accessible is the software for someone who really does not get computers?
You're always going to have a certain understanding of computer technology in order to actually use the physical software, because it is based computer. We are also producing currently a load of YouTube-style videos which shows all the basic principles and how we're using the software, and it all goes up online. So it's there, available, ready, and we have an excellent technical support team with the company. I mean, generally, if you need help or you need contact or you need to go to someone or ask a question, we're there within minutes. I mean, you phone us up, we're either answering the phone straight away or you're getting a call back very, very shortly to make sure.
Without breaking any confidences, though, have you seen, I'm going to use the term older users working their way through it? How do they find it?
Some people pick it up really, really quickly. Other people pick it up really slowly. But the support's always there. We always make sure that anyone that wants to use the software and has access to the technical skills and help that they require to actually make it a viable solution for them to use. Otherwise, you wouldn't really want to provide them a product that they can't use.
Well, I was just thinking, if you've got this expertise and all your life you've done it the long-handed way and calculators and you've got your spreadsheets and all whatever you want to do, because you may have even transitioned to that. Somebody seeing this for the first time, like you demoed it to me a few months ago, it's like, oh my gosh, if I had this 10, 20 years ago, it must be the lifesaver.
Yeah. Well, we tend to find people when they're going from that, we actually tend to find that the first thing they want to do is they want to go through all their hand calculations, and they'll actually follow you through with the software. They want to see the results happening the same way that they're doing on the paper, and when it happens, it's like magic to them.
Yeah, great.
And they see
love
it.
And does it work? I mean, would you, Gary, if let's say you were going to design a circuit now or design an installation, would you tend to sort of sketch it out on paper to just get the feel and then turn to the software, or could you literally jump into the software?
I think most people would start with a 2D drawing to sort of get the picture of the layout, and you work out the cable length, put down some meters, you work out the cable sizes. Yeah, so I would do it building blocks, and there is a set sort of procedure that you follow. So if you're doing a design course, you work out your design current, then you work out your nominal rating of your protected device, any cables and any scenarios. But all of this is built into the software, isn't it? You just drag it.
As you're doing the design, as you're putting those things into place, you're getting that visual element. It's showing it straight away as you're building it in your head. You're seeing what you're building in your head straight away. And things like you were saying with the your cable lengths and those sorts of things. With the power of the software, because we're using that CAD environment and we're using scaled environments, as you put your cables in, you run them along your trays, your locations, it's automatically measuring all that information for you. So as you're drawing
on the fly,
it's doing it on the fly. As you're putting it in, it's there. The data's being put into the locations where you need it.
So when you're laying out your drawing, then if you've got a distribution board which is supplying another distribution board, and you stretch it to do with the sort of location, and it increases the length of the cable, does it increase the impedance as well? So you can work out your R1 and R2 values?
Yeah, the software is automatically pulling that data. It places it in the calculation environment, and then it will tell you all your various impedances against that length. So if you end up moving the cable or you change the direction, then it recalculates for that increased length and those sorts of things already in there.
And where are we getting all this data from?
It comes directly as you're drawing it.
Yeah, so you built all this in sort of for some manufacturers and British standards?
Yeah,
So you get manufacturer information. Is that you can update databases?
If if we have various information, so we have various information from manufacturers for various types of cable types, as well as protected devices and other types of systems within ElectricalOM. And we also take data from obviously the British standards as well. So where you have tabulated values and those sorts of things from the back of the BS 7671, that's all included within that data.
Yeah, we get asked that question all the time on the committee is why can't you have more data from other manufacturers about the protective devices? And the reason is the book would be 5 times as big, wouldn't it? So, if you're working directly with manufacturers to bring all that in, that's a
Well, the joy of it is, of course, it's dynamic. Presumably you can update those databases and those files at any point.
We absolutely do. So we often get requests for various new devices and new ranges of devices to go in the software. Generally, if it's 1 or 2 devices, we're usually quite quick. We get them in usually within sort of 14 days. But if you're looking at a whole range of devices, so let's say, manufacturer XYZ brought out a new range of MCCBs, we would then spend time with that manufacturer, go through all that data, input it in the software, share that information with the manufacturer. They can then give us feedback if there's any information that's wrong, and then we roll it out as part of a full update then for those clients, which does take a bit longer. So it can take a couple of months to get a full range of devices in there, but generally we have all the most popular devices and uses and manufacturers that a lot of the people out there do use.
I can attest to your input and your proactiveness or reactiveness as it is to sort of adapt these things, because I phoned you up a few months ago to ask you to look at a particular scenario, which was, you know what I'm like, very pedantic about some bits and pieces. And I've got to say you took it on board and you went away, and literally, I've got to say it felt like 24 hours. You delivered it, you took on board it, and a couple of extra options were built into the software. So very intuitive and very reactive organisation. Excellent.
What's the vision? Is it nearly the full item, or do you have other plans? Does it go further?
Oh, it always goes further. The key thing about ElectricalOM, we're trying to build a piece of software that works with the modern methods of construction. Too often now you see so many softwares and historic softwares that people are using that just haven't moved with the times. It doesn't work within the realms of how construction is now done and how work is being done for the various companies. We find companies are having to bend around the softwares to actually make that work. Whereas we've taken the approach of, well, what do customers need? What do these companies need in order to do the job that they need to do? When someone comes to us and says, we need to be able to get this information into Revit, or we need to be able to do something like Gary was saying before, where he had to omit things for short circuit protection and those sorts of things. We took a look at the regulations and the requirements, and then we built that ability into the software. So where someone comes across that situation, the options are available and they can produce a design which is actually being put into practice in construction.
So is there any sense of it being an AI thing? Is there a time coming when you can put in a basic description of an installation and it will actually work it out for you? Is that impossible?
I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's not something we're actively looking at, certainly not. The big thing about ElectricalOM is it's a tool. It is purely a tool.
For a skilled person?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't take away that human element of engineering judgment. All the information is laid out clearly for you, so you can, as a designer, make the necessary engineering judgments and choices to make a compliant design. We try and help with that. So where we have information in the regulations, if you're putting in a particular type of cable, we take away the options where the regulations say, well, actually, you can't put this cable in a basket tray. You can't.
Nice.
But everything else stays in place. So all the engineering judgment and the ability there's to do it, but we're trying to take away the error, and we're trying to make things quicker and easier for engineers. So, you can create a board and then you can save that and use it in different projects as well. You can template systems and you can have things already pre-built. So maybe you're doing a hotel. You might have a hotel set up for a distribution board type. All that data is already pre-built, and you can just bring that into your project as many times as you need. We're trying to help speed up the processes, reduce time, reduce the number of errors, and the software really flags up that information.
And presumably at the end of the process, you can produce schematics, you can produce all the necessary paperwork.
Yes, and you see it as you're building it. It's all there in front of you. So you're moving your schematics around, you're putting your data in there as you're doing it, and you're building your frames, your various information. And then at the end, when you finish, you just hit your print button. It puts it into a format which is globally used in terms of various M&E files and those sorts of things.
So I was just going to chip in there to say that if you've got a 36-way board feeding other boards, what about certificates? Can it print those? Populate all of that to a greater extent to save time?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the software, once you've done this, we have the mobile app. Any contractor can download the mobile app. There's no restriction on it. But it works directly in conjunction with the software itself. So you would then complete your design, you export that file, it can be received on a tablet or a mobile device with all the information about the whole topology of the system, all the protected devices, all the cables that should have been installed, and the engineer can go around placing all their test results. But once those test results come back into the software, we can also do checks against those test results against the design data. So immediately the software will flag up where cables are actually much longer than the design may have allowed for, and these sorts of things. So queries can be made. You can raise any particular issues. Maybe they're about to change a route of a cable on a particular installation, and those sorts of things. But the software helps with all that information.
I pride myself on trying to bring journalistic rigor to these things and prod for the weaknesses. I can't hear one. So this sounds amazing, this stuff. Come on, Gary, give us, let's challenge Spencer to defend something.
When you're younger and you talk about a computer, my parents used to say to me, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to be a technical person to know this, surely. Surely you've got to have an understanding of 7671 to start understanding, like you said, about the taking out the errors. So you can't put single core cables in basket tray, for example. It's not permitted. So that will alleviate that. So there will be some methods that can streamline things, but there's got to be some things in there that somebody's not going to fully understand. But there's error checking built in, I presume. So it's a case of what I know, I'm now applying into that. So can you see advantages?
You can't find any, can you?
No, other than a learning curve, I suppose what I'm thinking of is that if there was one circuit, and we say this all the time, and any organisation that's worth their salt will say the exactly same thing, is designing one circuit is probably simpler to do manually. But if you're doing multiples there, you've got repetition. So if you've got a suite of shops or a hotel or something like that, then you can transfer that around, because obviously once you've got one thing...
It takes away human error. I mean, we all know that late at night you're doing a design and maybe you just slip on a calculation.
I was doing some consultancy about 2 months ago, and this gentleman had done 40 flats. And they had to manually bring in all these cables. I knew the lengths. We knew they were all the same size cables, 16 mil armoured, blah, 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 blah. And we had to fill in this certificate manually. If we'd have done all that in the CAD software, that would have just been a simple process of click the button, authenticate or check to make sure there's no errors, and then print the button, and out come the certificates. Save days.
I think we've heard enough. Spencer, you mentioned the university offer. How, if a university person is listening and wants to take advantage, what do they do?
Well, it's not just universities. Obviously, there's colleges, just general colleges who are training. Maybe you're doing 2396, maybe you're doing test inspection, whatever it might be. The software is available out there. You can contact us directly. You can go to the website where we're very contactable, and we will just give you licenses. We're not asking for anything for them. It's there.
Could I use it on my design course then?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're currently no, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. We currently haven't done.
Oh, promote it.
We're currently building in some additional functionality online. So if you are a private educator as well, there is going to be like a portal system where you can register an email address, and then if you've got students who are doing distance learning, they will have temporary access to a full version of the software for the duration of the course, wherever long they need to do to help produce the projects and those sorts of things. We're trying to open it up so that there's a real valuable educational tool as well as an actual tool for being used in construction environment.
Well, I've found a negative. Not a negative in the product, but a negative in the visualization of where the industry wants to take this. Commercially, design courses are like 5 days, but there's so much to cover in there. It would be difficult to bring in large elements of time. So I suppose really you could offer a price and then say for an extra day, we could spend the whole day on the software to train people to get ready for all this. So maybe watching videos or actually real time in front of a computer desk station is take on board what you learn and now apply it. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's some of what we're trying to produce in these YouTube videos.
Yes, I've been talking to some real key trainers and industry leaders here, and I'd like to see that we could make an influence change here, because I think that we've gone down a path which is a quick cutthroat approach to getting training done, but obviously the long-term solution is for people to move into a proper design environment, so there's a career path for people to go. But you need another day on a course. Now, commercially, that's driven by price, right? Whereas experience has got to be worth it. So I think working with some people, they would recognise the benefits of this. So I'm going to be talking to them. Well, watch this space.
We'll watch that space. Spencer, fascinating to hear from you, and it sounds like terrific stuff. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
Doing great work for the industry as well.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks to Spencer Henry from Modecsoft for a look at the state-of-the-art of CAD design in the industry, and also Gary Gundry for his insights. How comfortable are you with the advances Are you already a fiendish CAD designer, or do you still cherish the drawing board and slide rule? Whatever your thoughts, I hope you found the discussion useful and informative. Check out other podcasts from the Electrical Safety Network. I'm Dave Austin. Thanks for listening.